Jayo Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Yashodanandano Braja Jana Ranjano Yashodanandano Braja Jana Ranjano Yashodanandano Braja Jana Ranjano Yashodanandano Braja Jana Ranjano Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayam Vishnu Pada Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Satarasata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Shri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Shri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sega Host Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopakapina Shamakanda Radha Kundigiri Govardhana Ki Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki Shri Mayapur Dhama Ki Ganga Maya Ki Jamuna Maya Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulasi Devi Ki Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jainatai Gaura Prayananti All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, continuing with Maharaj Nimi meets the 9 Nava-Yugendras, chapter 11, no, excuse me, canto 11, chapter 2, verse 47. Archayam eva haraye, pujam ya shradhaye hate, natad bhakteshu chanyeshu, sabhakta prakritas smitaha. A devotee who faithfully engages in worship of the deity in the temple, but does not behave properly towards other devotees or people in general, is called a prakrita bhakta, a materialistic devotee, and is considered to be on the lowest position. Right, so we see the Uttamas, they're seeing everybody connected to Krishna, everyone is devotees, and in their whatever capacity they're in, they're seeing. Then you have the Madhyama, who then is seeing everybody, and he deals with the Lord, with the affection, then respects the devotees, is kind to the innocent, and then those who are inimical, then he just avoids them. And then here we have the neophyte. He has that faith in the Lord, faith in the deity, worships very nicely, but he has the tendency to not necessarily behave nicely towards other devotees or, people and living entities in general. Like that. So we can see is one of the main differences is just how they all have faith in the Lord and worship with faith, but the difference is how they're dealing with devotees. That's the main thing. Right? So one doesn't deal so much at all. The next one then is dealing nicely with the devotees, but avoiding and those who are not devotees but are not inimical. And then those who are inimical, they just are neutral with them. Right? So if there's any etiquette, they follow the etiquette, but other than that, they won't deal with them. And then the Uttama will see everybody in their connection with the Lord. Does that make sense? Yeah. Purport. Srila Madhvacharya comments that one in the lowest stage of devotional service faithfully worships the deity in the temple, but is not aware that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually all-pervading. This same mentality can be seen in the Western countries where people commit all types of sinful activities in their homes and in the street, but then piously go to a church and pray to God for mercy. Actually, God is in our home. God is in the street. God is in our office. God is in the forest. God is everywhere. And therefore, God should be worshipped everywhere by the process of devotion, devotional service at His lotus feet. As stated in verse 41 of this chapter, quote, a devotee should not see anything as being separate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna, ether, fire, air, water, earth, the sun, and the other luminaries, all living beings, the directions, trees, and other plants, the rivers and oceans. Whatever a devotee experiences, he should consider being an expansion of Krishna. Thus, seeing everything that exists within this creation as the body of the Supreme Lord, Hari, the devotee should offer his sincere respects to the entire expansion of the Lord's body. This is the vision of the Mahabhagavat devotee of the Lord. Srila Madhvacharya states that a Madhyama Adhikari, a devotee in the intermediate stage, sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the cause of all causes, and therefore offers his love to the Lord. Such a devotee is a sincere friend of other devotees, is merciful to the ignorant, and avoids the atheists. Nonetheless, his realization of the all-pervading feature of the Supreme Lord is imperfect. Though he does have a general sense that everyone is ultimately meant to be a devotee of the Supreme Lord and tries to use everything in the service of the Lord, aware that everything belongs to the Lord, he may be bewildered by association with atheistic men. Right? So we see is that fullness of understanding the Lord, because when you see the Lord connected with everything, that means you see all the living entities connected, all His energies. right? So when you see the Lord nicely, but not all his energies, right? To some aspect, then it's not as complete a realization. So basically is that appreciating the Lord means actually appreciating him with his energies and the interaction he has with his energies. Right? So in the Dasamul, they're establishing that Krishna is the Lord of everything. And at the same time as he has innumerable energies. And then the third is he's the Lord of Rasa. So that Rasa is being exchanged with the energies. He's the Supreme Lord interacting with his energies based on the platform of Rasa. So that's a full understanding. Right? So we hear all these different things, we know all these different things, but it's just a matter of practice, then we start to realize. But we should be aware of what's going on. So that means if we're appreciating the devotees, other living entities, seeing everything in connection with the Lord, that means then we're starting to see all the three aspects. Otherwise, he's the Supreme Lord, and that's the first thing that people will catch. And so that's the start, that's a solid basis. But then you have to add his creation and his relationship with that creation. Right? Srila Madhvacharya states, a Kanistha Adhikari has no idea that the Supreme Lord has the power to exist outside a church or temple. Furthermore, being puffed up by his own ceremonial worship, a Kanistha Adhikari cannot imagine that anyone is more pious or religious than he. Right? Yeah. And is not even aware that other devotees are more advanced. Thus he cannot understand the Madhyama or Uttama standard of devotional service, and sometimes because of his false pride, he criticizes the more advanced devotees of the Lord, neglects them, or simply has no understanding of their exalted position as preachers or completely self-realized souls. Right? So they're just aware of their own position, but their position they've connected to the Lord, so that's what makes them a devotee. But the point is they're not seeing anything outside of their own circle, their own scene. So they can't appreciate. So it's just a matter by the practice, then you see that this symptom becomes less and less, and one becomes more and more aware of other devotees and all these aspects. Does that make sense? So that's just being revealed. That he's God, that's not the big revelation. His relationship with the devotees, that's the real thing. So, yeah. Another symptom of Kanistha Adhikari is that he's infatuated by the material qualifications of so-called great materialistic persons. Having a bodily concept of life himself, he is attracted by material opulence, and thus minimizes the position of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Such a Kanistha Adhikari, therefore, is disturbed if a second-class devotee criticizes the non-devotees of the Lord. In the name of compassion or kindness, a Kanistha Adhikari approves of the non-devotional activities of such materialistic men. It's just like they'll think, oh, but there's such nice qualities, they're doing everything very nicely, oh, they're so much more expert, and whatever the qualities are that they may appreciate. And they may be seeing those as more important or better situated than that of the devotees. Right? Because the materialistic position is not totally unfavorable to them. Right? Because being situated like that themselves, they tend to see others who are, whatever is one's own conditioned areas, and if whatever the attachments are, anybody who's actually better in those things, then one has a natural affinity. So that's another aspect. So not only that they don't really understand or appreciate the devotees or deal with other living entities properly, they do appreciate those who have the same kind of materialistic abilities as them, but are better at it. Does that make sense? So it's just a matter of time when you start to see is those qualities all come from Krishna anyway. And so that someone has these qualities, it's by Krishna's grace. Through their good work or whatever it is. But the point is it's still connected to Krishna, and that's why it's glorious. It's not glorious on its own, right? So Madhvacharya says that such a person, because of his rudimentary faith in Krishna, is considered a devotee, but he's a bhakta tadatma, a devotee on the lowest standard, right? So the more that you have this as a problem, then the lower it is. And the less there is, then the higher it is. So that's then how one can see what's the position and how one's interacting. If such materialistic devotees follow the rules and regulations of deity worship, they will gradually be elevated to a higher standard and eventually become pure devotees of the Lord, unless they commit offenses against other devotees, in which case their advancement will be checked. Right? So as long as you don't commit offenses to the devotees, and you worship the deity, perform your sadhana and that, one will be elevated up to the pure platform. Then all these problems go away. Right? Because devotional service and knowledge and detachment are naturally come. And so one gives up because we see that these are happening because of attachment, right? Due to lack of knowledge. They don't see the relationship of living entities with Krishna, and they have their own materialistic attachment, so they appreciate those fields, those who are doing well in those fields, right? Yeah. Srila Madhvacharya states, those who neglect or show indifference to the devotees of the Lord are to be considered offenders at the lotus feet of Vishnu. Similarly, those who disrespect the demigods will become bereft of devotional service and be forced to rotate again and again within samsara, the cycle of birth and death. Then he says here, the demigods are always to be offered respect, since they are devotees of the Supreme Lord. Right? So we're not worshiping them, we're respecting them, because they manage the universe on behalf of the Lord. Right? Because you're not just going to have anybody working there. So it's only the devotees are working in the position as demigods. But they're neophytes. Right? So because they have an interest in these materialistic ways, then the neophyte devotees in future birth, they take up these positions of demigods. Right? So that's the point, is that they're servants of the Lord. That's the glory. But as far as their devotion, it's generally on the neophyte platform. Right? You know, their qualifications are so great so they can understand the position of the Lord. And you see they offer very nice prayers. But their consistent realization is that on the neophyte platform.
So somebody like Indra will to heaven is a neophyte.
Yes. That's why you see now and again they make some mistakes that shouldn't be made. That's because of their neophyte position.
And both Brahma and Indra.
Well, Brahma would be a madhyama.
Right.
That's where he's starting. Yes. Yeah, but that one's he's making offense. The other one is he's not fully understanding Krishna's glories. So he gets bewildered, but it's not an offense. But Indra is actually offensive. Why? Because he disturbs the devotees. Yeah. Yes. So that's why then he's in the neophyte position. Well, Brahma's in the madhyama position, and that just not fully understanding the glories of the Lord. Right? But we see is within these pastimes, then he'll come to that more advanced position.
And so this post of Indra, for example, the living entity who takes the post tends to be a neophyte.
There'll always be devotees, but there'll always be neophytes. Why would a madhyama want to be Indra? You know, you could do you could be preaching or something. You know, it's like right there. And the point you want to make is, I don't get the point. It's disproportionate to what? You seem to be. Do you work in some financial things where you're always working with proportions, or because you always relate everything to proportions? Disproportionate to what? The power. Where does the power come from?
Actually, work in finance.
You work in finance. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. But where does the power come from? Doesn't make sense? How about if I say it? Power. Does that make more sense? No? Doesn't? Okay. The point is it's a post in the universal affairs. How does the universe function? Just on its own? I mean, just where does the potency, it's just like, okay, how does your refrigerator work? It just works on its own. It just comes in a box and you just open the box and it's running. And it'll run eternally. How does it run? You plug it into the power. Okay, so the point is, where does the power of the universe come from? Paramatma. Okay, and Paramatma happens to be Krishna. Okay, so then the potency of the universe comes from Krishna, right? So he's an office holder, so therefore to be able to do that, he's empowered by Krishna. Does that make sense? Yeah, so it's that if Krishna, the power of Krishna is there, it works, and if it's not, it doesn't work. Does that make sense? So whoever takes that position, then they have that authority, they have that power. And then when they're not in that position, they don't have that power. Yeah? Okay. Yes? Okay. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Yes?
Is there a process of those major positions being filled, like the main demigods, so they become...
Is there a problem?
Is there a process?
Is there a process?
Yeah, like how Indra becomes Indra.
Well, I mean, they're devotees, and he's done 100 Ashrameta yagas, so that's how he gets in the position. Other demigods, they don't have to do 100. Yeah, just that they're pious, they're devotees, but you know they have that. They work within the Vedic system, but they're you know absorbed in the secondary aspects of their duties. But because they're devotees and they're dutiful, therefore then they can be demigods and perform the universal duties. Right? Does that make sense? Madhyamas wouldn't be interested. Uttamas wouldn't be interested. Right? Like that. So then the neophytes are doing. But it's service to the Lord, and in this way they can advance. Does that sense? Yeah. But that's, yeah. Okay. Yeah, good. Okay. If someone is envious of the demigods, he's to be considered envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? Because they're representing him in his offices. Similarly, one who offers sincere respect to the demigods is considered to be respecting the will of the Supreme Lord, right? Their respect is at the position. We're not doing worship. A Vaishnava does not foolishly think that there are many gods. No, there's one God. So demigods are just office holders. So if you're worshiping Krishna, there's no need to worship them. He knows that there is one Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. Yeah, nonetheless, okay. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya has recommended Harinam Sankirtan, chanting the holy names of Krishna, as the only realistic process for this age. Nonetheless, a devotee of the Lord should not misinterpret Bhagavad Gita's injunctions against demigod worship as a license to offend the demigods who are bona fide Vaishnavas, right? That we don't worship them doesn't mean that we don't respect them, right? Madhvacharya notes, all the demigods are extremely inimical to one who does not respect Lord Vishnu. Such a person is pushed into the darkest regions by the Lord, as well as by the demigods. From this statement by Srila Madhvacharya, the devotional sentiments of the demigods can be understood. It is stated in the supreme liberation achieved by an Uttamadhikari, the most exalted devotee of the Lord. The devotee enjoys transcendental bliss in the direct association of the Supreme Lord and the demigods. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, right, and in the demigods, because when the Lord comes to perform his pastimes, then the demigods all come to take part in the pastimes along with him. Like Krishna told the demigods to all take birth in the families of the Yadu dynasty and all this, the Vrishnis, the Bhojas, and all that in that group, so that when he comes, then they'll all be there to perform pastimes with him. Does that make sense? So then these Uttamadhikaris, they go and they're associating with the Lord and his eternal associates. And in this way, then he's associating both with the Lord, his eternal associates, and the demigods. Because he has the qualification, he has the character. Right? According to Srila Jiva Goswami, since a Kanistha Adhikari who cannot properly respect other devotees will certainly fail to offer respects to ordinary living entities, or not even devotees, a Kanistha Adhikari is useless for practical preaching work unless he comes to a higher platform of understanding. Right? Because unless you can deal with people nicely, how will you preach? How will you convince? So that's why then the culture is there. One has to perform the duties of the Madhuma. Right? That's the whole point. Everybody within the Sankirtan mission functions in the Madhyama position. Now it's just a matter of what your realization is. Right? Because the Kanistha can perform the duties properly and will deal with people properly just because that's what you need to do to preach. The Madhyama will do that because that's just the way you're supposed to do it. All right? Not because it's just for preaching, and if you're not preaching, you don't care. Right? Madhyama always deal properly. And the Uttama then sees all living entities connected to the Lord, so he can deal with everyone according to what position they need to be dealt with. Right? Well, the Madhyama will be careful with those who are not inclined towards the Lord. Yes?
I wanted to ask you, these pastimes that Krishna comes and performs, are they actually organized by Krishna, or is it spontaneous?
Pre-organized, or are they spontaneous? So you're worried whether you're going to get bored because they're pre-organized, and anything pre-organized can't be good, and you want it to be spontaneous and that party and falling out. What was named? What was her name? It's one girl, Agnihotra, I think. At one of the parties, she fell out of the window like that and killed herself. She was really big in Bollywood. Yeah, remember that? Yeah. So you want something more spontaneous like that. If it's all organized and formal and that, you're not sure if you want to go to that one. You understand? It's that everything is about fulfilling the Lord's desire, and his desire is to interact with the devotees based on affection. So then Yoga Maya will arrange the situations. Right? And then Krishna and the devotees will take part in those situations. Does that make sense? Does that work? We're good? Okay. Yeah. Yes. Can anyone be? Can anyone be Kanistha or Madhyamadhikari? What do you mean by anyone?
So like any devotee
Can be a Kanistha. You start at Kanistha, so if they're a devotee, they're already on that platform. Then they elevate to the Madhyama.
So they can, while they are earthly planet, they can be Madhyamadhikari.
Well, why not? Even if you're on the earthly planet, you can be an Uttamadhikari.
And they can carry on when they pass, when they leave the body, as Madhyamadhikari position. Or they have to be Uttamadhikari.
No, you have to remember Krishna to enter. So you can be a neophyte, remember Krishna at the time of death, and then go back to Godhead. And then from that position, from the neophyte position, then you'll advance. You advance from whatever position you're at. The point is, you remember Krishna, you go, and if you don't remember Krishna, then you don't go. Does that make sense?
They can carry on the Adhikari position. They can progress from whatever point they stop.
But the point is about progression. So whether you're here or whether you're there, you progress up to prema. That's the idea. Right? It's not that only if you're Uttamadhikari you can get in and everybody else can't. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Excuse me, Raj, some people are trying to just define Radha
Oh, no. Very good.
How does that look like, though, that if there's a neophyte happens to remember Krishna at the end of his life?
How does it look like?
Yeah,
Means that you want to...
Calculus describing fairly spontaneous, doesn't it? Like fairly...
Point is devotees are doing devotional service, right? So they're practicing devotional service. And then in practicing devotional service, they're trying to do that to please Krishna. And so at the time of death, who's going to save you? Right? Is that, what I'm saying? Who can save you? Yeah. Your wife can't save you, your son can't save you, your cat can't save you, your mother-in-law is definitely not even going to try, so it's just, so it leaves Krishna. So if you remember Krishna at the time of death, then there's no problem.
But you gotta get trained up again in the spiritual world.
You continue from where you left off, right? But you're dealing in the everybody there is devotees, so you don't have to go down to Kohl's and buy stuff and stuff like that. Yeah. Does that make sense? So you just continue from there. It's the Lord's pastimes in Gokula. They're training ground. That's where you become trained in Krishna consciousness, because one has to come to prema, right? You can't get into Goloka unless you're on the platform of prema, right? So then in Gokul, then you're trained up to the level of prema. Does that make sense?
Messy or...
Messy, why is that messy? Means you're thinking of like a 2-year-old and a plate of spaghetti? Is that what you're meaning, or?
You make heaps of mistakes.
What mistakes you're going to be making?
I guess you're not that advanced yet, so
What's the problem? If it's a training ground, I mean, are you worried about the grade schools? Is that because nobody's trained and all that, and they're in the grade school, and wouldn't that be a problem? Is it a problem that all these kids are in grade school? Why not? I'm saying, why isn't it a problem? Yeah. So the school is designed to train. So Gokul is designed to train people in Krishna consciousness. Does that make sense? But it's practical, on-the-job training. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Just like if you go to university, you do your 3 or 4 year degree, depending on what it is, much of the time, once you finish the degree, then you go to get a job, then in 2 to 3 weeks, they'll train you actually how to do the job. So technically, you could have come without that degree and in 2 to 3 weeks learn the job, right? You know what I'm saying? So the point is on-the-job training is much quicker than sitting in a classroom. So you're there with Krishna, his eternal associates, and so then you just do what they do. Does that make sense? So then it's not so difficult. It means you have to be into it. You want to have to progress. But the point is it's not going to be so difficult. Does that make sense? You don't have to worry about the internet to distract you.
it's not as tedious as it is sometimes.
Sorry?
It's not as tedious as it might be here sometimes.
Tedious? No, it's not. It's always ever fresh. Yeah, so that's why it's ever fresh and it's spontaneous, so it's not boring. So yeah, it's worth being there. Right? And the password to get into the club is to chant the holy name, yeah. Right? Just the bouncer looks a little bit better here. Does that make sense? The bouncers here, these big burly guys, bouncers for there is Maya's the bouncer, so she looks better. But she's just as good. Okay? So you chant, you go. You don't chant, you don't go. That's why we always chant. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Yes.
I'm just trying to understand that Brahma is Madhyam Adhikari.
That's what when he starts at the beginning of the universe. Now he's a bit better up from that, yeah?
He progressed to the top Adhikari. What would it take? I'm just trying to...
What would it take? You follow the devotional process. It's the same process. It's not that for Brahma it's different than you. You have the 9 processes of devotion, you absorb yourself in that, you progress.
And Lord Shiva, for example, which category would he fit in? He's one of the Madhyams.
But I'm saying, what are you going to do with this knowledge?
Probably just have a better understanding.
But how will it be a better understanding for what? The point is they get to that position by following the process. You're going to get to that position by following that process.
Someone like Narayana also, he's open to life
Yeah.
because he followed the process.
Yes. So you get to that position by following the process.
So Brahma gets some ways to go, Lord Shiva has some progress to make.
It's not a matter of the progress. It's a matter of wherever they're situated, then they make progress from there. Shiva is always a devotee of the Lord, so that you don't have to worry about him progressing. Right, because Shiva's not a jiva. He's himself. Brahma, each universe, is a jiva. So that jiva, wherever position he's situated, then he progresses. See, he may be a devotee, he may not be a devotee. Our Brahma is a devotee. So we see is that when he's discussing the position, his realization at the beginning of creation, then we see there he's acting on the Madhyama platform. But we see as time goes, and like as Haridas Thakur, he's acting as an Uttama. Right? Yeah, so you don't have to worry about... The process is the same. That make sense? Yeah, because it's a matter of you understanding that you have to follow the process if you want to get somewhere.
Which makes us, if we follow the process, then in terms of Adhikari, we can actually progress further than Lord Brahma has done.
No, because Lord Brahma is an Uttamadhikari. How are you going to go farther?
I thought he was Madhyama.
You're not listening. I said, at the beginning of creation, means 150 trillion years ago, when he was sitting on the lotus doing his meditation. Then, when he realized the Lord and spoke the Brahma Samhita, then we see at that time his realization of his position in relationship with the Lord was on the Madhyama platform. But we see as his pastimes as Haridas Thakur, he's an Uttamadhikari. You know, so the point is he's an associate of the Lord. The Lord, the thousand-headed Lord, lives with him. You know, so he has regular darshan and interacting and all that. So the point is, you know, that's why I ask, why do you want to know this? Because, you understand? You can advance by following the same process they do. But it's not that, oh, I can become better than Brahma. What's the point?
Just in the Bhagavad Gita, when we read King Prabhupada mentioning one of the prophets, that even, or maybe in one of his classes, that even we can have, not that I'm interested in, but just that even we can have the position of Lord Brahma, or we can progress.
Yeah, but I mean, but why is that important or special?
It's just an understanding, one knowledge, that's why.
Yes, but I'm saying knowledge should be useful. Does that make sense? Knowledge has to be taken to the point where you can apply it in your life. Like if I just say, yeah, you can cook potatoes. Oh, okay, cool. But so you're happy just with that much? Or are you going to try to take it, well, how the potatoes are cooked? Yeah, so the point is coming to the devotion, the advanced platform of devotional service, we do that through following the process as given by the acharyas. Right? So, that being given by the acharyas, then that we follow that, we attain to the perfectional platform. We take example from others how we can advance and apply it in our life. But we don't just sit around thinking, well, I could be like Lord Brahma, or I could be more advanced than him. You have to remember he is the head of the sampradaya, so we have to be respectful. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because see, knowledge just to know is not good enough. It's like, that's the first stage. What are you going to do with it? That's the further stage. And then realizing that, then that's the next stage after that. So just playing with knowledge is not good enough. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
The ultimate realization is to live the relationship that you with Krishna.
Yes. No, but it's about developing love for Krishna. That's the ultimate realization. So yeah. Yeah.
Seems to be from my stage a lot hard to achieve.
It's not a matter of hard or easy. It's a matter of you commit yourself, it works. You don't commit yourself, it doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? Because everything's hard. Getting up in the morning, going to work every day, getting stuck in traffic, coming back, getting stuck in traffic. Is that easy? No, but we do it. So then why if we're willing to do that, and we'll only get temporary returns for that, why we wouldn't be willing to do that same effort but get eternal returns? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Maybe the point is cultivate the spiritual stamina.
Sorry?
The spiritual stamina, we need to cultivate that.
The spiritual stamina, yes. That we gain by association of devotees and by regular practice. That's how we develop that. Right? Because you have faith, so then you develop. You don't have faith, and it'll be slower. Is that okay? Okay. Something else?
Well, it's quite straightforward, really. It's just wherever you find yourself in the universal,
Yes.
other entities, as long as you're following the process of devotional service, there's gradual elevation and
Yes.
connection with Krishna.
Yes. It's just that's the position. That's the principle, and it always works. But why the human position is considered the best is because you can do that in 100 of our lifetimes, 100 years of our lifetime, right? Well, the demigods, it's 100 years of their lifetime, right? You understand? So for ours, it's, let's say, for us, it's, what it is. But for the demigods, then it'll be, thousands of times. And then for Brahma, it's 311 trillion years of our years. So 100 years, 311 trillion, So that's why everybody glorifies, even the demigods, the human form, for spiritual life. If you're interested in mystic power and all this and that, then they're doing better. But if you're interested in devotional advancement, then the human is considered the best, because in a very short time, then they can elevate themselves to going back to Godhead. Well, they have to wait for the end of their life because they perform the karma and they're going to be there. Indra will be in that post for 71 cycles of the Mahayugas. Right? That's how long he's going to be there. And it's not necessarily that he dies after that, he's just not in the post anymore. because depending on who's in that position. Like we see, I think Prajapati Daksha, he's takes the position of one of the I think the previous one, I think Chakshusa, I think, or something, of the Manu. But he's one of Brahma's sons, so he'll be there for the whole life of Brahma. So it's the point is that the human life is special in that in such a short time you can get such great benefit. Well, theirs, they can get that benefit, but it takes a little longer. Right? Okay? Yeah.
With the human life, the realization can come within a month.
Yes. Yeah.
But it can't happen like that.
It can happen. Yeah, but it just generally, it's like if everything's going, it means when do you have a tendency to remember Krishna? When materially things are going great or things are not going as great?
Well, when they're going great.
When they're going great. Okay. Then that's good. Then that's good. If you're always remembering Krishna, then that's great. But sometimes the demigods get a little bit more distracted. You know what I'm saying? Like that. So they may not be as focused. Like that. Does that make sense? It's like that, yeah. So it's like you see as many individuals get attracted to Krishna consciousness because the material world's not working out so good for them. And so then they're doubting. Well, the demigods, generally things are going fairly nice. So they can get distracted. Now, if they're focused, then they won't be. Like we see as Nala Kuvara and Manigriva, then after meeting, the curse of Narada and then meeting Brahma, then they'll be pure devotees and do their service and always remember. So it's not that they can't, it's just that many tend to, like we see Indra, he gets distracted quite easily. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. You had something? No? Okay. Yes.
From the point we were previously discussing when the afterlife and near-life remembers Krishna, then he enters the pastime on earth.
He goes to Gokul.
Somewhere in the field.
Yes.
So, but then, does it specifically give Gokul or can it be after or what?
Gokul, meaning there, is just where the Lord's performing his pastimes. And so if you want to be more general, you'd say his Boma Lila. Boma means the earth, so the earthly pastimes that are manifest, not the unmanifest, the manifest ones.
So they don't necessarily might attain perfection during that long time, or do they? Because like
What do you mean by perfection?
after that to go back to God.
I didn't quite catch where you're talking about it.
After a lifetime of participating in Krishna's pastime.
After a lifetime, it means by being in the Boma Lila pastimes. Then?
Then all of them really go back to Godhead?
They're already back to Godhead. It's just a matter of whether they're only in the Boma Lila or now they can take part in the Goloka Lila. And when you go to Boma Lila, you are back to Godhead. Because Vrindavan is the spiritual realm, whether it's situated in the higher position in Goloka or in the lower position here. It's the same place.
The point I was thinking is like, because we hear that some are not haven't necessarily realized Krishna fully, like in residence and Mathura and Dwarka, that they see him in different aspects.
But the different aspects means...
For example, in Dwarka with the pastime of the Semantaka too, then some can accuse Krishna that he killed the brother of this man.
Yeah, and so you're worried about them.
Some have offenses attitude or some don't realize that he's his position.
But it's all in the pastime of the Lord. You know what I'm saying? So the devotees go there, take part in the pastimes, and are absorbed in how Krishna deals in all these things, how he interacts.
So it's then only external, you might
No, but why are you worrying about that one person? Let's put it this way. Maharaj Ugrasena has a personal bodyguard, right? So that means it's the best of the army. That means his personal group of, I think, 10 trillion soldiers. That's just his bodyguards. Then there's the others. Why are you worrying about this one guy who has a problem with Krishna? Have you ever heard the acharyas talk about that? It's a dangerous position that you might get yourself into, and when you go back to Godhead, make sure you turn right, don't turn left, or you might end up in that pastime. Or, you know what I'm saying? Why would this be a focus?
I just want, like, if it's definitely like one time it
And then, but what's the doubt? What's the problem? You understand? Things in the material world, they're not sure. Things in the spiritual world, they're sure. That's why when you go there, it works. But the point is, you're a person. You apply yourself. So if you're applying yourself here, why you won't apply yourself there? But if you don't apply yourself here, you won't be there. So you don't have to worry that you'll be there and not applying yourself. Right? So don't worry about them. You don't even know if they're jivas. You understand? They may be, you know, expansions of the Sandhini potency just to make the pastime work. And you don't know that they're not devotees. Because otherwise, how does it go? You know what I'm saying? We're not talking about, you know, those people who come around, you know, door to door and leave little pamphlets of, you know, everybody in heaven, and the, you know, the animals all talk, and the little girls can sit in, you know, boats floating around the lake with fluffy lions and talk to them and stuff like that. No unicorns though, yeah, no. Even though they're more fluffy than the lions, but somehow or another they never put them in their pamphlets. I don't know why, but does that make sense? So the whole point is that the pastimes are going on, and they're arranged that these things will happen. So who's doing that? That's not your business. Yoga Maya takes care of that. You know, your business is to make sure you're not that person. And how you're going to do that? By being absorbed in Krishna here. So then why worry about them? Right? Okay. Yeah, in other words, don't find a distraction to keep you from being inspired. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah. Something else? Srila Jiva Goswami says, because the Kanistha Adhikari's faith is not actually based on the statements of Vedic literature, he cannot understand the exalted position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within everyone's heart. Therefore, he cannot actually manifest love of God, nor can he understand the exalted position of the devotees of the Lord. Krishna is so glorious that Krishna's intimate associates must also be glorious, but this is unknown to a Kanistha Adhikari, because they'll generally look at the secondary aspects, the external. And so there'll be some understanding, but it won't be complete to the point where they understand the glorious position of the Lord and the glorious position of the devotees. That's why then they don't always deal with the devotees properly. Does that make sense? Yeah. Similarly, the essential qualification of a Vaishnava, which is to offer all respects to others, is also conspicuous by its absence in the Kanistha Adhikari, right? So they'll offer to those that they feel should be respected. And then those that they don't feel should be respected, they don't. Right? So it's very much that they choose who they're respecting or not. Right? It may be within the context we learn what is there, but still it's their choice. Right? Well, the Madhyama just knows what is the proper thing to do and acts within that. Does that make sense? You know, it's just like the typical thing where somebody's talking to somebody, you know, and just takes this ordinary, and then let's say someone else comes along, you know, that you know, okay? You're talking to somebody, and just you're taking with some ordinary bloke, right? And then your friend comes along, and oh, you've already met this guy, and then he's the guy that you've come to see at the party, you know, but you wouldn't know he's the guy. So you just deal with this ordinary guy. Then when he tells you he's that, oh yeah, then they're all respect. That's the neophyte. Because it's only they choose who they're going to be, who they're not, and this and that. It's not based on realization. It's just based on, you know, how they're impressed or not. But the point is they're devotees, they're connected with Krishna, so that's why by following the process they will advance. Does that make sense? Done.
And that's why in the scriptures at various points it keeps on saying, hang out with, you know, devotees who are
More advanced, yes, yes. Because then you take on those characteristics, you start to see. Like that. Like that. So then Jiva Goswami continues here. If such a person, however, has faith in the Vedic literatures and tries to understand the statements of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, he'll gradually be elevated to the second and first class stages of devotional service. So we see that importance of that faith in the scripture, and faith in the process, faith in the devotees, the Lord. That faith, then by that being steady, then they'll advance all the way through. Right? Something, yeah. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, a Kanistha Adhikari should very seriously engage in regulated worship of the deity. The deity is a particular incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna can present himself before the worshipper in 5 different manifestations. Namely, his original form is Krishna, Para, his quadruple expansion, Vyuha, his pastime incarnations, Vaibhava, the supersoul, Antaryami, and the deity, Archa. Within the deity form, Archa is the supersoul, who in turn is included within the Lord's pastimes forms, Vaibhava. The Supreme Lord's Vaibhava Prakash is an emanation from the Chatra Vyuha. This quadruple expansion of the Lord is situated within the Supreme Truth. Vasudeva, who himself is situated within the Swayam Prakash Tattva. This Swayam Prakash consists of expansions of the ultimate Swayam Rupa Tattva, the original form of Krishna, within Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual sky. This hierarchy of the expansions of the Supreme Lord in the spiritual world is realized even within the material world in terms of one's eagerness to render service to the Lord. Right? So it's that eagerness. You want to, it's not a matter of you want to know, it's a matter of you want to apply, you want to practice, you want to realize. Does that make sense? That's why you were asking the question before. Just to know. You know, it's just, you understand, because like in the general circles, if, you know, they say, well, why do you, I just want to know. Okay, because you want to know, because knowledge is considered glorious and all that. Then you mean, oh, okay, yeah, cool. But in the devotional thing is no, but you have to want to realize and practice. Otherwise, just knowing, then what happens when you don't want to know? Then you won't be taking part in the devotional process. That's the weakness of a jigyasu. Someone who approaches because of wanting to know, is that if they don't get some point get a appreciation for the Lord and the devotees and want to actually realize that relationship with the Lord, then they can be distracted from their position and go back into the material.
So Maharaj, would it be fair to say that the knowledge is sort of impersonal and the realization becomes a personal aspect?
Yeah, you could say like that, but it's just like it's a material desire. They just want to know, facts and they're interested. Someone is anxiety and that wants to become peaceful. So they may take up Krishna consciousness. Someone else, then their material situation is bad, so they want that to improve, that by practicing religious processes, then it being pious, it should improve your material position. And then others, then they just want to improve their knowledge, their understanding. Like that, but it's not, but once that's up to the point they want, any of those first three can be distracted. But someone who wants to actually know the Lord, have a relationship with the Lord, the jnani in this case, then they'll move on to be the madhyama. So in other words, those other three have to come to the platform, the jnani to come to the platform, the madhyama. The jnani in this case means who wants to actually know the personality of Godhead. You know what I'm saying? So that means there must be that realization, that practice. So here you have this hierarchy of the forms of the Lord, but the whole point is it's by that eagerness to render service, that's how one will advance. So whichever form is available, so the deity form is there, then from there then it goes up through till you get to Krishna. But the point is Krishna is coming as the archa. Right? It's Krishna is doing that, but it's just showing that there is this steps, but the point is it is Krishna. Right? But it's just showing where he's expanding. But it's still Krishna. Okay. Beginning in the lowest stage of devotional service to try to dedicate all his activities to the satisfaction of the Lord and cultivate the worship of the Lord in the temple. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, all plenary expansions of the Supreme Lord mentioned above descend into this world and enter within the deity, who exhibits the function of the supersoul by accompanying the daily life of the Vaishnavas. Although the Vaibhava or pastime expansions of the Lords incarnate at specific times, Ramadi Muti Shukalani Amena Tishtan, the supersoul and deity forms are constantly available for the spiritual advancement of the devotees in the world. Right? They come perform the pastimes, then you won't see those pastimes. But the deity, then they're always there so that you can interact. Right? Like that. As one comes to the Madhyama Adhikari platform, one is able to understand the expansions of the Supreme Lord, whereas the Kanistha Adhikari's entire knowledge of the Lord is limited to the deity. Nonetheless, Krishna is so kind that to encourage even the lowest class of Vaishnavas, he condenses all his various forms into the deity so that by worshipping the deity, the Kanistha Adhikari devotee is worshipping all the forms of the Lord, right? So he has all these expansions in this hierarchy, but one may not understand them, but they're all in the deity. So by worshiping the deity, you're getting the benefit of all that worship. And then by doing that worship, you get purified, you advance, and then you start to understand. So just Krishna is very kind. That's the whole idea. As the devotee makes advancement, he can understand these forms as they appear in their own way, both within this world and the spiritual sky. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the inability of the Kanistha Adhikari to appreciate the Lord's devotees, entourage, and paraphernalia indicates that such a materialistic Vaishnava is still affected by the speculative understanding of the karmavadis and mayavadis, who are dedicated to sense gratification and impersonal speculation about the absolute. Right? It means we're coming with our previous, impurities. So naturally, one comes with karma and jnana. So that's more obvious. The newer you are to the process, or the less advanced, that's more obvious. And as you start to advance, that becomes less and less obvious, till where it disappears. Does that make sense? So it's there because they've just started, but the way it's going to go away is through the devotional process. So that it's there is not the problem. If one's focused, if one has that eagerness to render service, then it will be purified. So, yeah. The Srila Prabhupada often said that only the impersonalist desires to see Krishna alone. We desire to see Krishna with his cows, his friends, parents, his gopis, his flute, jewelry, forest scenery, and so on, right? Because you see, the person is always looking at Krishna in the clouds and an Om sign and all that, and for them that's enough. But for the devotees, they want to see Krishna with all his associates and paraphernalia and pastimes and everything like that. Yeah? Yeah. Krishna is gorgeous in the setting of Vrindavan. It is the land of Vrindavan that Lord Krishna, surrounded by so many beautiful associates, manifests his exalted, indescribable beauty. Similarly, the unique mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is exhibited in the activities of his pure devotees, who selflessly travel around the universe, distributing the dust particles from Krishna's lotus feet on the heads of the conditioned souls. One who is uninterested in the Lord's paraphernalia, entourage, and devotees has a stunted conception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This must be due to contamination from the impersonal and sensuous understandings of life. So that any shortage in realization or determination, these are all just due to one's previous, association in karma and gyan. And we're used to moving in that field and being very, determined in that field, because we see the material benefit we're going to get. When we take up the spiritual life, we may not have that same drive, because we have that practice drive in the material world because we've been here since time immemorial. So we have a little practice. But now spiritual, now you have to become inspired. So that's why associating with those who are more advanced, by always being absorbed in the process, as much as possible, those things that are direct, hearing, chanting about the Lord, worshiping the deity, these direct activities, that will then purify the heart. Well, then one will start to become, enthusiastic. Rupa Goswami gives the example of when someone has jaundice, it's an effect, it's a disease of the liver. And so what happens is sugar doesn't taste sweet, it tastes bitter. Right? That's one of the symptoms of jaundice, is that sugar tastes bitter. So then, but the only cure is by taking sugar, right? Specifically rock candy, because it's cooling on the system, won't heat up the liver and stuff. So then by eating rock candy, you just keep eating. And then with time, it'll be less bitter. Then with time, it'll be neutral. Then it'll start to have a taste. Does that make sense? So that's what the process is. In various stages of bitter, up through, Shraddha, Sadhu, Sangha, Bhajana, Kriya, Narta, Nivriti. Right? Then it comes to the neutral platform of Nishta. Then you start to get a taste. It starts to become a little sweet at Ruchi. You know what I'm saying? Means when we're saying these, means on a regular basis. Before that, we're tasting now and again the sweetness of the process. That's what we're inspired. But then you get to a point where you're always tasting that. So then the inspiration, the drive goes very quickly. So once you get to Ruchi, it goes very quick. And before that, it moves at whatever speed is our focus and our determination. So, yeah. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur states that after hundreds of lifetimes of faithfully worshipping the deity of Lord Vasudeva with external paraphernalia, one realizes the true nature of his transcendental name and mantras. And the bondage of one's materialistic mentality slackens. In this way, as a Kanistha Adhikari gradually comes to perceive the mental activities of a devotee and tries seriously to advance to a higher stage, his materialistic conceptions will go away of their own accord, right? Because Krishna removes them. But it has to be that you want them removed. That's why they'll go away. He then exhibits loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, makes friendship with the devotees who are the dearmost sons of the Lord, and by appreciating the universal quality of devotional service to Krishna, he becomes very eager to engage other innocent people in the service of the Lord. Furthermore, as he begins to make significant advancement, he becomes inimical to anything or anyone that hinders the progress of his devotional life, and thus he avoids atheistic people who cannot benefit by good instruction. Right? It means they won't take advantage of it, so you just don't associate. So we see is that the whole process of developing that faith then can take, as he mentioned here, hundreds of lifetimes. Yeah, after hundreds of lifetimes. So then that brings you to that point where then now you're committed to the devotional process. So then in that position, as a Kanistha, then he can move. Because we're thinking, oh, but the Kanistha is so low. Just look at it, it's the culmination of hundreds of lifetimes of doing a little of something connected with devotional service until now it's enough where now that would be the main focus. So it's quite good, so don't. But for what you can get to, then there's still, ways to go. So don't become, oh, okay, then I go, no, wait a minute, you got all that. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, founded by His Divine Grace Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Parivrajacharya Astutada Sata Shishimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, is so nice that anyone who helps the society immediately engages in preaching work for the Lord. Thus, there is a great facility for the members of the society to come quickly to the second class stage of devotional service. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, verses 45 through 47 constitute the answer to King Nimi's two questions. What is the nature of devotional service to the Lord, and what are the specific duties of the Vaishnavas? Right? So then his questions on this. So the nature of devotional service is to be absorbed in the Lord with his devotees. And with the specific duties is to worship the Lord and be respectful to the devotees. Right? So then we see by that how much that's done. That will define your advancement. It's not something external. It's to do with how do you view the Lord and the devotees and their relationship. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Just you mentioned worship deities. It has to be in a temple environment or it can be at home, which is not Archvigraha or something like that.
Why would at home not be an Archavigraha? Who would he be? Shah Rukh?
Probably we might be worshipping the
Amir? Who are we worshipping?
Sorry,
Hmm? Ladu Gopal.
so we might not be worshipping the Purna Swarupa or Jugal Swarupa.
I don't catch what's the point.
I'm just saying,
Do we worship Krishna or not? Do we worship according to the process given to us by the Acharya? Do we worship with faith? Do we think the Lord, the form of the Lord is eternal? Then what's the problem?
that's my question. So I'm not sure whether there's a problem or not,
But
it just
no, but just by the
in environment and temple or not. So
point is if you're worshiping in home, that's not a temple.
it is.
Yeah. But we also see is that the main thing is the association of devotees. So at your home, you're worshiping the deities nicely, but where's the association? So that will go on, but then you come to the temple or wherever there's devotees congregating to take part in the association. Right? Because we always have to remember that's how you advance from one platform to the next, is from association. Okay. Okay. Something else? Yes.
But isn't it also that we benefit from interacting with the daily form of the Lord that many other devotees also do, like especially
I don't understand why you're saying but.
that with installed deities that you get easier, more reciprocation, like many devotees worship this deity than
Means you're always going to be the house deity is an expansion of the temple deity, right? That's the way it is. Like if you're here, then this is the temple. You come to the deity, then your house deities are expansions of them. Unless you were somewhere else before and you worship them in that mood. But whatever it is, that's the home deities are always considered an expansion of the main temple. But that doesn't mean you don't come to the temple. Generally, you have deities at home because you can't come to the temple. But if you come to the temple, you come here. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because here is so. What's the specialness here? Okay. It's the association, right? Okay. Something else? Huh? Yes.
I don't know, unless there's more questions, but I just want to say thank you. This is the last class you gave this time around.
Yes.
I'm sure devotees share the same appreciation for your classes, and we'll look forward to your next visit.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Jai Ho. Hare Krishna. Jai Ho. Jai Ho. Jai Ho. Okay. Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Samaveta Bhaktavinda ki. Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi.
Yeah, no,